No, unless, hey, we are live streaming for the last minute and 56 seconds because I guess you hit go live, coach. Listen,
Yes.
welcome to the Power of Now. I'm Coach Mitchell,
And I'm Coach Darren.
and tonight we will be exploring the fascinating world of thoughts, beliefs, and their impact on our lives. So, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the profound concepts that what we think, we become.
Absolutely. And Coach
Coach,
Mitchell,
you want to get in frame? Yes.
yes. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're not double streaming here. So I'm going to end my stream. Okay.
No, don't end your stream. Just let me check the
All right.
platforms. So, go ahead, Coach, because I think
Okay.
that tonight's topic is a very dynamic topic, and it's one that I think requires some deeper discussions because we see so much going on in the world today that it is sometimes hard to believe that people are thinking above their immediate environment and or circumstances.
Yes, absolutely. And first, do we have any visitors here tonight? Do we
Not
have any visitors?
not yet, but I think we're good on the stream.
Okay, if you say so, because I'm showing that I'm streaming here. So if you're showing that you're streaming and I'm showing that I'm streaming, well, we might have double stream, but let's keep it going. Yes, as Coach Mitchell said, you know what? Yes, we're going to talk about thoughts, and our thoughts are more powerful than we think they are, than we give them credit. And I want to say, a lot of times we become engulfed in our thoughts, and we pretty much know that thoughts can do some real harm to us uh, physically, emotionally, and mentally. They're that powerful. But yet, we are the master of our thoughts.
We
So,
are the architects of our reality
yes,
because
yes, we
our
are.
thoughts actually lead us to believe that that is the reality that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. You know, so, for those who looked at the discussion board, I put in there that we average, well, the average person has about up to 60,000, 70,000 thoughts per day, which seems amazing, because we're not even aware of it. But remember, whenever we see something comes to our consciousness, it registers a thought, even if it's only a brief moment. We think about it. So those thoughts are probably connected to the number of stimuli that we have that are coming into our consciousness. That's one. The other amazing thing is, I think it's 80% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So, assuming that we don't change our environment, we're getting the same stimuli. No, therefore, we're having the same thought. And 95% of those thoughts, I believe, are negative. Mhm. Or it's, yeah, 80, or it's the other way around. But you get the point that we're thinking mostly negative thoughts. And most of the thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before. So, what are your predominant thoughts? What are you thinking about?
Right. And, if you were to think about it, if I were to think about it personally, you're absolutely right. Most of my thoughts are repetitive.
Yes.
They are repetitive. And if I have upwards of 70,000 thoughts per day, that is a lot of noise in my head. That's a lot of noise in my head. And what am I choosing to listen to?
Yes.
What am I choosing to listen to? I think is the question that we'll probably explore. We'll peel back some layers to get to the heart of that tonight. But if I'm playing 70,000 thoughts, how do I clearly and distinctively hear those that are most important, that will shape or that will shape my reality for the good or the bad?
Oh, good question. Yeah. First, you have to, I think, yeah, first you want to become aware of your thoughts. In other words, you want to think about what you're thinking about. Most times we don't, we just let the thoughts dominate us. The other thing is you want to make sure you want to know that you are not your thoughts. You know? Now, why is that? Because if you're observing your thoughts, what's been observed can't be the observer. If that makes sense. They're two separate things. So if you're observing your thoughts, that means you are not your thoughts. And some say don't always believe your thoughts, because you know how we talk in previous sessions about the stories that we
Mhm.
make up. So when we make up those stories, we basically act like a child. We make up a story, not based on
Exactly.
fact.
But the power of our thoughts play out in not just the stories that we tell ourselves in our heads, but in our belief systems, in
Mhm.
our attitudes, the way we interact with people, the way we even feel about ourselves. Because if I believe that I can achieve, then I'm more than likely going to work towards achieving a goal. But if I
Absolutely.
believe that I'm a failure, then that belief and those thoughts around failure are going to sabotage any possibility of my success.
Yes. Mhm. And you think about how, like I said, thoughts give birth to emotions, and emotions is energy in motion. They give birth to our behavior. So, to your point, if we don't think we can do it, we're going to feel like we can't do it, and we're going to behave like we cannot do it. Classic example that's been given is the belief of it was it was not humanly possible to run a uh, less than 5 minute mile, 4 minute mile, uh, until someone did it. Then it became, oh, it's doable. So now other people started striving for it, and other people started doing it because they said,
Mhm.
oh, it's possible. Now, a lot of times we think of these things as, as I always say, woo woo stuff, but it's not. Once someone proves that something's possible, then it changes everything. Hmm? It looks like we got
Absolutely.
somebody. Uh,
Hi, Robin. Thank you for joining us, sis. Absolutely. I think that that's a great example because when someone achieves a goal, a higher goal, or something
mhm.
that someone else has said is not possible, when someone achieves it, everyone that's coming behind that successful person has something to prove,
Mhm.
right? So I think that goes a long way in showing that the power of our thoughts, positive or negative, can propel us to either greatness or failure or
Yes.
stagnation or
Mhm.
stagnation. So,
Mhm.
and that leads me to my question about the power of thought in health and wellness, and how
Mm.
a lot of studies have shown that there is a connection in our thoughts and healing. So the positive
Mm.
thoughts and healing. Now, I know you've probably been around someone who's been sick and they have a sob story for every ache and pain. And you've been around someone who has been sick
Mm.
and you can't tell that the sun is not shining in their world every day because they have such a positive outcome and outlook. and that person, the glass is always half full, very optimistic. And, that person that, has a complaint for every ache and every pill that they take, it's like they not only are sick themselves, but they drain your positive energy and they make you feel sort of fatigued just listening to it. So, how do you think our thoughts influence our health?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you a couple of examples where it's proven, all right? And we can all probably relate to this. Even if you're going back to childhood, we pretty much know, times where you've faked being sick to get out of going to school for whatever reason. And the more you got into your thoughts, the more likely you actually started feeling ill. So that
Right.
fake stomach ache, when you really thought about it, started to become real. That's one example. The other is we pretty much know that, and I've mentioned this before, the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
And this has worked. The placebo and the nocebo effect is where you tell someone, a doctor gives someone, a sugar pill, but tell them it's medication. They believe it's medication.
Mm-hmm.
They will get better. And it works the other way. You give somebody medication, but you tell them it's not medication, it's just a sugar pill. And believe it or not, the medication doesn't work. They actually remain sick, which is why I always say doctors don't heal us. They help our body get in a position of healing us. We heal ourselves and we heal it internally. So that's how thoughts play a prominent role in our health and wellness. One of the reasons, you may have heard a doctor say that if you have someone in a hospital who's ill, don't stand around them talking about their illness because you feed their subconscious mind. Don't even cry because they pick up. They're still conscious about everything that's going on around them. And therefore, if you're exuding or sharing any kind of negative energy, they pick it up. So it's like, oh, I'm sick. I must be dying. If you want to help someone get well, then you want to tell them that they're well. And their mind will lead their body. We tend to work the other way around. We let our body tell our mind what's going on. But yes, our thoughts are so strong that they can heal us, because if it's been proved that we can get sick from negative thoughts, well, the opposite has to be true just based off of universal law. Law of polarity, it has to be true. We can think ourselves into wellness, but you have to believe it. Well, as you say, this is where, I say people, this is where your faith comes in. You have to have faith that it's doable. And I don't think a lot of people, I think this is where the disconnect comes, Coach Mitchell, is that we could say to people, they intellectually may agree with it, but it goes deeper than the intellectual. You have to believe it in your spirit. Yeah.
Okay, don't get into my scriptures now. I have scriptures to correspond, but you're absolutely right.
Yes, and I leave that to you.
I wrote down 5 scriptures that actually call your faith, your thoughts into your faith, that will help in any situation. And Proverbs 23:7, and this is out of the NIV, says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This verse is from the book of Proverbs, and it underscores the idea that our inner thoughts and beliefs shape who we are and how we live.
Yes. And if I can interject something, Coach Mitchell will come to you from the scriptural perspective. I will come to you from the scientific perspective. And I just want to go back to that scripture right there. Where we are today, scientifically, is it's been proven that the heart has a separate brain. Now, to most people, that's going to sound, whoa, that's not true. It's been proven. It operates independently of the brain in our head, which is also remembers things. Because we can remember things, like I said, emotional has an imprint. If something traumatic happens to us, we remember it in our heart just as well as we remember it in our brain. So, repeat that scripture one more time, Coach Mitchell.
I have some more, but I will reread this. But I just wanted to say, piggybacking off of that comment, we never say, "Oh my God, he hurt me to my head."
No.
Right?
Or
So
she.
or she, they hurt me
Right.
to my heart. It's
Mhm.
always to my heart, because the heart is where life is. It's where
Yes.
we feel. That's where our emotions really come from, right?
Mhm.
So it's Proverbs 23:7, and it says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Right. So notice, as he thinketh in his heart,
In his
which
heart.
proves that long before science became aware of it, somebody knew that the brain had its own independent heart that, again, sort of thinks on its own. And again, to your other point is, yeah, nobody ever says somebody hurt me to my head unless they were physically struck. But
Right.
that's not what they're referring to.
That's right. And
Hmm.
the Bible tells us that we should pray for clean hearts and renewed and right spirits,
Mhm.
and that you know
Mhm.
the what we bring into our bodies, what we bring into our thoughts, and by way of reading and watching and conversations, um, it will eventually lead to a corrupt heart.
Mhm.
So again, the heart is the center, the nucleus, the life source of all things that we take in.
Yes.
And that's just not from a religious standpoint, that is from a spiritual standpoint.
Mhm. Mhm. So, what's your next scripture?
My next scripture is Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. And again, it's the new international version. And it reads, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." So this encourages believers to focus, and others, on their thoughts on to focus their thoughts on positive and virtuous things. So
Yes.
again, if you are ruminating on the positive, then you will be more encouraged and motivated to live a more conscious life, versus thinking on those things, those negative things, those things that may have caused you, whatever, grief and grievances. Then you're more apt to react out of emotions.
Mhm. Which also connects to, again, science pretty much says, and I mentioned this on the segment a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago, about we pretty much prove that everything in the universe is energy. Some refer to it as spirit. Quantum physics says it's energy. And again, it's been proven over and over in different ways. That means our thoughts are also energy. And what we're thinking, it's either going to be a positive or negative. So if we focus on positive things, as the scripture read, if it's virtuous, noble, those things will lead to corresponding emotions and they will lead to corresponding behavior. And it's not a guarantee, but more than likely it will lead to corresponding results.
Hmm. So I
So
think,
again, we create, it's a way of saying we create our reality.
and even along those lines, that's how we are able to have wholesome, productive relationships, when we are intentional about how we think and how we treat other people, not just in that general encounter, but how we treat other people's emotions, how we see other people, and how we see ourselves. Because
Mhm.
you can't even fake treating people right if your mindset is negative.
That is correct. I would agree with that. Mhm.
So it helps to shape our relationships when we have a positive and a noble outlook
Mhm.
and thought process.
Uh, And I think it really helps when those thought processes are truly coming from our heart. It's part of who we are.
Hmm.
Not that you're faking it, you're putting on some facade. No, it's when it's truly part of who you are. Because even when things do not work out the way that you like, if the essence of who you are is positive, noble, honorable, you'll interpret things differently than if your essence of who you are is negative. Yeah, I again, previously mentioned about what we refer to as the four stages of consciousness. You know, the first stage is that bottom one is victim. Everything's happening to me. You know,
Hmm.
and pretty much when you're in that at that level one, even when something good happens, it's probably not. You're not going to stay there and enjoy it because you're going to immediately think about what's wrong. You know,
Yeah.
not that the glass is half full, half empty. Your glass is entirely empty, according to the victim thinks, my glass is broken. No matter what's given to them, something's not right.
Hmm.
And we pretty much know one of the things that helps you have a better experience is staying in the space of gratitude.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Definitely, because you're right. Anyone who, again, we all know any one person or two that always have a negative perception about, no matter what it is going on in their lives. They always have a negative perception.
Mhm.
And that negative belief impacts their relationships, because I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be around someone who is always heavy in the spirit, meaning they always come from the negative perspective, and no matter what it is, and it affects their relationships. It creates conflict in relationships, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're arguing. That conflict doesn't mean you're arguing, but the conflict is with your negative temperance versus my upbeat,
Yeah.
positive outlook in my thoughts, because I'm always looking for the silver lining,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Well, if if it didn't work out over here, then maybe it'll work out over there. Always looking for how can we make it right, if
Mhm.
it's not right. So I think that cultivating those positive thoughts and empathy can really foster more rich and positive, healthier relationships and harmonious interactions with others.
Yes. Mm. But what other scriptures do you have?
Okay, so my next one is Matthew 15, verses 18 through 19. And it reads, "But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander." So in this passage, Jesus is teaching us that our actions are a reflection of what's in our hearts and our minds, because you first think it in your heart before it comes out of your
Mm-hmm.
head, right? So it's really highlighting the importance of controlling your thoughts.
Well, again, say thoughts lead to emotions, and emotions lead to behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And within that behavior is the things that we speak. That becomes part of our behavior. Uh, they all have energy, and they all have the power to uplift or to destroy. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, as it says, good evening, Sister Annie. Good evening, Amy. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thank you for watching. Yeah, absolutely. And clear. It's clear in Matthew chapter 15, verses 18 through 19 for reference, is that it, the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart,
Mm-hmm.
come from the heart. Even though they're coming out of your head, it's coming from your chest, right? It's coming from your heart. And that is the center of, again, our life source is the heart.
And here's the other thing, you've heard me say before that, again, the power of our words also are, our energy, which means they have the power to build or destroy, to transform. And it goes back to, what I've mentioned about the original word of abracadabra. We know it as something magicians say, but from the Hebrew word, it means to create as I speak. So, what are you creating? When you speak, what are you creating?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for those who are in the space of manifestation, we know that your words are the final level of manifestation. People say speak it into existence. That goes in line with the original word abracadabra. You're creating as you speak. And what's in your heart. If you're speaking from what's in your heart, and now science is saying that for those who are familiar with manifestation, says, you know what? Our thoughts are signals that we send out. Our heart is like a magnet that pulls that which we think to us,
To
which is
us.
good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin to see how these things are connected.
Yeah, I was reading, doing a little research when, we came up with the topic. And one of the things that stuck out was a point that when we look at movements like the civil rights or social justice movements, we see how collective thoughts and beliefs help drive positive change, because people are
Mhm.
coming with one thought, one mindset to achieve a result, a positive result in this particular instance. So it shows how we can influence our, positive thoughts influence our actions, and in turn our actions shape our world and the
Yes.
environment in which we live in. So it's just a powerful reminder of the impact of having positive thoughts, not just for our personal lives, but also for the world around us.
Yes. And with that, there's it from we'll say from the quantum physics perspective is or metaphysical is that we are all part of a universal consciousness. We're all part of that one consciousness. And as a result, when we come together in numbers, and this has been proven, with monks, where I think they did a test with 300 monks who then meditated and prayed together, and it actually impacted surrounding areas, meaning the crime went down. So if you begin to look at these tests and what, that they perform, yes, this goes back to everything being energy. We have an influence based off of what we say and what we think. We actually can impact others. It's been proven now that they call it, I believe it's the power of 8. And if you Google it, you will find it. It said 8 seems to be the magical number. That if you get 8 people together and you focus on a common thought, and that thought could be about anyone in the 8 who may be going through something, that if you have that collective consciousness, that you can influence the reality for that person. Now, again, people say woo-woo. Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Well, I'll take it back further than the power of 8, and I'll take it back to the 2 or 3. And in the Bible, it says, if there are 2 or 3 gathered in my name, then whatever they ask, it shall be given.
Yep, collective consciousness.
So, there it is. It's that coming together on one accord, having a like mindset and believing that you're going to be able to accomplish that which you think and ask for. Right? So another scripture that I have is Romans chapter 12, verse 2, where it states, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And this verse emphasizes the transformative power of renewing your mind, your thoughts on, your outlook and how it actually aligns with God's will. So I think that it's important, again, to always have that level of self-awareness so that you can pay attention to your thoughts. So that you can get them under control if they're, like a runaway train and they're all over the place, and you can recognize any negative patterns that may creep up and negate them before they do get out of control.
Yes. And that's key, that you have to have, if you're trying to make a change in your life, and it's one of the things in terms of, with working with people, especially when it comes to health and wellness, is before jump in to doing any particular activity, first thing is we got to work on your mindset. Like I said, we have to renew your mind. We have to transform it to become a mindset that's centered on health and wellness, because it's a lifestyle. It's not about dieting or doing any of those trends. No, those are fads. When you truly become conscious of being healthy, and I was thinking, you can be anywhere on the spectrum of health, but you decide first that's what you want to do. And if you can't do that, then you'll never get the results you want. They'll never be, lasting.
I think
so
also,
you have to, yes.
I'm sorry, Coach.
I was gonna say, you have to transform yourself mentally. That's the place to start.
Yeah, and I think also when people hear, and I'm not saying all people because I'm not trying to belittle or criticize anyone's level of knowledge, but I think a lot of times when people hear health and wellness, they only think, for some reason, dietary.
Yes.
But there's so many pillars to health and wellness that it requires a recalibration of your mindset so that you are able to embody the whole body, the whole person, the whole being in order to really affect health and wellness in your life. And I think about it in terms of my vocation. You know, we talk about the continuum of care, treating the whole patient. And it's not just having that encounter with the provider. It's about social determinants of health. It's about mental health. It's about having access. It's about, you know, the person's economic status. It's about not just the disease state that they have, but how can we treat the root cause of what may be causing that disease or that illness. So it's about not just checking the health and wellness sheet. It's about looking at what may be going on in that person's whole life.
Yes.
And then developing a care plan that encompasses those components that will address, you know, whether it's mental illness, whether it's lack of resources, income, transportation, whatever it might be. You get the picture. I think when
Yes.
people hear health and wellness, they think, oh, I got to change my diet and I got to get up and exercise. Well, we're talking about exercising your mental muscle and your heart muscle to change your mindset so that you understand that the approach to health and wellness is about embodying all of the aspects of living a completely mindful life.
Yes. What you said is so true. Again, you speak about health and wellness, and people automatically go to the diet, which is crucial. It is a core part. It is connected to everything else, is what we consume. But you know what's also interesting is when people also think about, oh, I need to do a detox. You know, I need to detox. They also think about detoxing the body. And there's a whole bunch of detoxes out there. But guess what? If you don't detox the mind, your body's going to become sick again.
Yep. And you have to detox your heart.
And your heart, yes.
You have to detox your heart.
Because we're flooded with toxic or toxins from so many areas. But people immediately go to, well, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to do a detox this week. You know. Yep. And the question is, if you don't change your mindset after you detox, what do? Do you go back to the same habits that you had before? You probably do. Yep. Because you haven't changed the way you think about either your self-care or about health and wellness. Yeah. And I just want to, I pulled it up here. Hopefully I can find it. But the fact that what you just mentioned connects with, let's see. All right. And this is just something that people, you might find this interesting. That when you go into the origins of words, and I've always found it interesting because I think you get a better understanding of where we are today. But when you look at the words healing, health, wholeness, holy, they're all derived from the same word. And these are words that, you know, go back to, you know, ancient times. And they said they, you know, these roots serve as the root words for health, whole, holy. So there's a connection between being holy, wholeness, healing, and being healthy. Now, I've said to people, you know, and I know some people probably didn't like it when I said it, but it's true. And that proves it. Don't talk to me about being spiritual if you're not taking care of your health, because you will never get there. All right? You can't. If you've ever noticed any spiritual leader that wasn't health conscious, that wasn't connected to nature, maybe in modern times, but in ancient times, the original, if that's what you want to call it, but people who dedicate their lives to a spiritual journey, have you ever seen one who did not take care of their body or take care of nature? And I've said to people, you can't speak of divine, whatever you choose to call it, and not have a level of respect for the human body or for nature, because those are the two most magnificent things created that we are aware of, that we interact with on a daily basis. So you can't talk out both sides of your mouth. So if you're on a spiritual journey, not a religious journey, a spiritual journey, then you must factor in your connection to humanity, to yourself, and to nature. So
Well,
you see right from the word holy.
mhm. I think even in the Bible, not that I think, I know that there is a quote from Jesus that says, if we don't cry out, and I'm paraphrasing, that the rocks will cry out. And there's so many other references to the creations of God in the Bible that it is true that we have to have a reverence for all things that are created.
Mm-hmm.
All things that are created. And hi, Stacy. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you tonight. And I have another scripture. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. This verse suggests that we need to actively manage and control our thoughts, ensuring they align with Christ's teachings. So again, it goes back to making sure that our thoughts are being actively monitored and managed. I don't know what happened to Coach Darren's
Yeah,
connection.
I'm still
Okay, there
here,
you
but
go. You're back.
yeah, but I was going to say the same thing about you. But I'm still here, and I see you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, again, it goes back, I would say, to, what we initially started out with talking about our core values for the power of now, which are our bets, our beliefs, our emotions, our thoughts, and the stories we tell ourselves, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
how do we gather that all up and package it so that we're constantly on a journey of self-discovery?
Well, it all starts with awareness. You have to begin observing yourself without judgment. That's
Mm-hmm.
key. So when you are experiencing negative thoughts, which is natural because we all having a human experience. You don't judge yourself, like, oh man, I can't be, because that's just another negative thought.
That's
You
right.
just observe it and then you course correct. Is it easy? No, because we've been programmed to think negatively. But you are not your thoughts. You are the master of your thoughts. You choose to think what you want to think, which is why two people could observe the same event, could have the same event happen in their life and respond totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And a case in point, some of our beliefs, and I just want to say just we say beliefs, emotions, thoughts, and stories. They don't come in that order. It's just
Right.
that order worked out for a good acronym to easily remember.
That's right.
Now, so a lot of our beliefs are cultural. They could be cultural, meaning uh, based on race, could be cultural based on geography, could be cultural based on economics. Like these are all parts of little cliques of cultural behavior. So you want to take time to analyze, why do you believe the things that you do?
Mm-hmm.
Are they beneficial to you? Are they serving you? And with those beliefs, are you serving the whole?
Right. And are you
No.
holding on to beliefs that are limiting, that are holding you back?
Yes. Uh, absolutely. So you have to have that awareness as you're going through. And here's the key. This is where our ego will jump in and prevent us from that growth. Because our ego, like, I'm comfortable with my beliefs. I know I'm right. Okay, all right. Is it serving you? Yeah, you may believe it is, but more than likely it probably is not.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself
I
those serious
agree.
questions. You know, are my beliefs serving me?
Hmm.
And certain beliefs is also giving other people to believe what they want. Because, as I've said before, there is no one right way to reach your enlightenment. Mhm. We're all, as I say, work in progress and working toward, most people, I'll say, you're working towards something better, but there's no one right path. And I say this to, like, especially when it comes to health. I say with health, health is bio-individualized, meaning that something that works for me may not work for the next person, even if it's healthy, known to be healthy. You know, may not. The same happens with our spiritual journey. Everyone's not going to take the same path. And we have to be okay with that. Because to say that you're wrong for the path that you're choosing, meaning that I'm not right in my path. Because when I'm right in my path, I'm comfortable with other people finding their way as well. It's the same thing like I said when you're raising children. When you get to a certain point where you can say to your child, find your own way. But if I'm constantly condemning your way, then I'm also possibly condemning your reason for even being here. See, your purpose for being here, your spiritual journey, your soul journey, may have a lot of negativity that I can't control. So I have to be okay with your growth.
Hmm.
And that's where we have to sometimes let go, step out of the way. And it hurts, but it's part of it. We can't keep jumping in telling you you're doing it wrong. I know the right way. No, I know the right way for me, and I have to stop it there. I can only live my right way, and hopefully that right way will be enough light to shine to others to follow. Because if I'm shining in your face about who I am, I'm not doing you any good nor myself. Because I'm blinding you instead of lighting the way for you.
And that's our job, is to light the way. We should
Yes.
be lights of the world. And in my journey, lights of the world through my faith and my belief in Jesus.
Hmm.
And I think that, again, the bottom line is having the ability to be self aware of those things that may be impediments to a positive growth journey, a positive health and wellness journey. Because, again, like you said, if you are not dealing with the issue that has caused the issue, and that could be, again, health related, it could be heart related.
Hmm.
If you haven't forgiven, you're going to still hurt. If you have
Yes.
bitterness, you're still going to be exhibiting those behaviors in your relationships. They're going to still play out. So until you really search your heart, and I got a journal for that. It's called Rule the Heart. Until you search your heart, really, and take a look at yourself and not point the finger, because that's, I think, where you were headed, Coach, in judging others. You
Yes.
can't judge other people. That's not our job. That's not your job.
Mhm.
Your job is to make sure that you are the best version of who God created you to be, so that you can be that light, so that your mindset is one that is not weighted down in the limiting belief systems, in the corruption and the collusion and all of the other minutia that the world has put on, that's forced on us from the time that we're born.
Hmm.
We have to always be on a journey of self-discovery, searching the truth, so that we can live healthier, happier, wholesome lives.
Yes. Yep. And I just want to, go back again to your your comments about the heart. Again, something that the medical community has, I won't say realized or acknowledged, is people actually die from a broken heart. There is a term for that now. I don't know how long they've acknowledged it, but it's called cardiomyopathy, I believe is the correct
Mm-hmm.
term,
Mm-hmm.
where the shape of the heart even changes when it's been seriously broken, which is why you will normally see people who have been together for years. If one of them passes away, you pretty much know it's just a matter of time before the other one, because the heart is broken. And unless that's healed, they probably will not survive. And literally,
Yeah.
they've taken something that something that emotional, that is not tangible. They can't give you a pill. They can't operate on you, but they recognize that it exists.
Yep.
So it again tells you this is not just about, it's something that's happening in the non-physical part of who we are that gets manifested into the physical,
Mm-hmm.
as does everything. Everything occurs in the non-physical. So we talk about thoughts. All right.
Yeah.
Thoughts, they're non-physical. You can't touch a thought. You can't really package it up and put it in the mail.
Right.
I mean, you could send somebody a card with some really nice thoughts and words, but for the most, it's intangible.
That's right.
Ideas are intangible. But guess what? They all get manifested into the physical. And the broken heart is just a sad thought that will eventually, if someone holds on to it, it becomes a belief, and it eventually will manifest itself into the physical world.
That's right.
Uh, and I just want to reiterate that, because that kind of tells the power of our thoughts and our beliefs. Once we begin to realize that everything starts in the invisible, all right, we don't see it that way because we're so caught up in the physical material world that we lose sight, which is kind of interesting that we lose sight of the invisible. Hmm? But the invisible is where all the action is. Like I said, all of our thoughts, our ideas, they're in a different realm, a different dimension. Once we think about them, once we put some action to it, we transform those ideas into the physical form. And then just again, go back to a little science here. When you take Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, what he did was he showed that there is a correlation between energy, which is everything, including our thoughts and our words, and mass or matter. There can go back and forth. You can convert energy, our thoughts, our words, our feelings into something physical. Because anything physical, any kind of, whether it's us or a table, whatever, is energy just vibrating at a lower rate. So I should say it's all there, it's connected.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts will eventually manifest somewhere in your life. Mhm. So if you have good thoughts, you'll manifest good things.
Yep.
One of the other things they say too, like our body is a physical manifestation of our thoughts or what we're carrying. So if you got a lot on your mind, they say it's a pretty good chance you're gonna have back problems. Mhm. Because
yeah.
why? Your body is trying to tell you you need to deal with your thoughts or emotions. You're carrying too much weight. So just like a broken heart is telling you, yeah, your emotions are, I'm gonna say your emotions are broken. Mhm. So back to your question, how do we get there? I said first is the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think second would be the intention. Once we become aware of where we are, we then got to be intentional about what we want to do. So do you want to become healthier? And now we're using the term healthier way beyond diet, physical health.
Right.
We're talking about, you want to be holy? Hmm?
I would say pay attention to your intentions
Yes.
in that regard. Pay attention to your intentions because, again, we have gotten to this place in humanity because we haven't paid attention and we haven't been intentional. And we're at a place where people feel they have carte blanche and they can do and say whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has really put humanity in a position of really having to play catch up to get back to a more moral and ethical society.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when we're intentional about our thoughts and we're thinking positive and virtuous thoughts, then our thoughts won't run amok into the lane of selfishness, because I think that's where we are as a society. Because, I want what I want when I want it. And that's regardless of what anyone else may be thinking or feeling. The mantra seems to be, it's my world, I live in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my way or no way. And that's absolutely no way to really live a compassionate, caring life with other people. That's a lonely existence. That's a lonely
Yes.
existence.
Years ago, I gave what I call my definition of being what people were calling ghetto. When that term was, folks being ghetto. Now, so no, being ghetto has nothing to do with a person's economics, their color, or anything like that. Ghetto is believing that you are the only person in this world and you don't care about anything else. That is ghetto. Like, the person who stops their car in the middle of the street to have a conversation. At one point in time, things that were occurring in the White House was straight up ghetto because they weren't thinking about anybody else other than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to move to a higher state of consciousness, you're moving toward what is known in some circles is a consciousness of oneness, which some people also refer to as Christ consciousness, where you begin to see that you are part of the whole. You're not different from nature, because guess what? Anything that happens to nature will eventually happen to you. If we poison nature, what do you think is going to happen to us?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that in real life examples like Flint, the water.
Yes.
You can't drink the water. You see it with the wildfires in California. You can't breathe the air. So you see it with energy where, fuel has contaminated the waterways and sort of damaged the ecosystem. So you're right. If it happens to nature, you can't disconnect. We are all one body, one unit.
Yes.
And if we lose one part of the body, we all suffer.
Yes. I saw, I'm trying to remember what book it was, but someone just broke it down and they went all the way from you removing something from nature, and it may have, it may have been a species of ants. They said if you remove that, something happens to that, what happens to the species who depend on the ants? Whether it's for food, and then what happens to that? And they took it all the way up to the entire movement of the earth simply by alternating. And we're beginning to see it, which is why, as Coach Mitchell used to say, we're running a little behind. So we got to do a little catch up. And again, in terms of our connection to nature, in terms of our level of consciousness, because our consciousness, if it's individualized and we're not on one accord, then it's going to be disharmony. And the reason when we become sick is because our body is not in harmony. Things are not working harmoniously.
Mm-hmm.
So we see it. If we're in our relationship and things aren't flowing, we're not in harmony. And we begin to see that in all areas of our life. And if we're not intentional about bringing that harmony back, and sometimes in that harmony, we may have to play a note that we don't want to. But the focus is on the harmony. Okay, so I'll play the low note. Now, I'll be the background. Next time, it may be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about maintaining harmony.
Absolutely.
Now, and that bypasses, again, to your other point is, you move out of the space of selfishness. And you begin to understand how you're connected to everything else.
Absolutely. And Coach, I think you're going in and out a little bit, but we're at a little bit over the top of the hour. Well, we're a little after the top of the hour. So
Yes.
okay, so any last minute comments for our listeners?
I would say, first, you know what? Just decide who you want to become. Then work on your awareness of anytime you are altering from becoming the person that you desire to become. And then be intentional about remaining on that path, that journey.
All right. Okay. And, I think that is absolutely spot on. If it all starts with self-awareness and pay attention to your thoughts and recognize how they impact you negatively, and limiting beliefs that creep in that you brought into, adulthood from childhood that may not be true, and challenge those beliefs so that you can replace them with more positive thoughts and empowering thoughts.
Yes. Just one quick thing, just to let folks know how important this content is that now corporations and even educational institutions are now pushing out things like conscious business or some variation, and spiritual leadership or some variation. They may call it different names, but it's really the same thing because they're recognizing we need to regroup.
Yeah, that we can't separate who we are.
No. So it's not just, Coach Mitchell and Coach Darren giving our opinions. It's real because we've gone so far, off the rails that people are realizing we have to do things differently to pull it all back together. So those are my last words for real this time.
Okay, great. So listen, cultivate gratitude and mindfulness and stay focused on the positive. Stay focused on your well-being. We thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Power of Now. And as I always say, remember, if you don't start now, there will be no next. If you like this episode, please share it, leave a comment, a review, and come back tomorrow night for our Inside Outside on Wellness Wednesday, where we are sure to have some great tips to enrich your life and help you on your health and wellness journey. Coach, you said last words last time.
I, okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got to do a plug. All right. Just so you know, that the I Am Well platform is returning. In October, we're doing a whole series on stress, stress management, and stress remedies, starting with next Monday with our nutritionist who will be leading a presentation on living mindfully. So that's a good place to start too. Mhm. You can go to I Am Well. I'll post it on the group's page, but you can go to iamwell.iampossiblemall.com to look at October's calendar and then register for any of the upcoming sessions. Okay, that's for real, for real, for real.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Mhm.
Listen, remember your thoughts have the power to shape your world. So choose them
Yes.
wisely. Have a great night.
Good night.